Gaming as a whole has always been the media that I've gone to and enjoyed ever since I was a child. I've gone from the likes of Nintendo to Sony, the N64 to the PS3. We have seen 2D become 3D. We have seen 3D become HD. We've seen HD become real, almost as real as you can get for a video game. We've seen games flop. We've seen games rise to high acclaim. We've seen old franchise turned into new franchises. Being a consumer of video games and being part of the video game fandom just as a whole has been a really fun experience for me, especially as a content creator. I like streaming. I like talking about video games. I like making videos about video games. I've enjoyed watching video games evolve from being a kid to the adult that I am now. You know, watching, watching games from like the N64 become HD with the PS3 and the Wii, and then the PS4 and the Xbox One and the Wii U, and then the Nintendo Switch comes out, and they just keep becoming more and more lifelike as we go on. This year, sadly, has been extremely difficult as a video game fan because of all the controversy surrounding companies. Sony with a $700 Pro version of the PS5 that brings basically nothing to the table. The remasters Sony keeps releasing that no one asked for. Games costing too much money like Spider-Man 2 and Concord, costing so much money to produce and being good but lackluster and are just downright flopping at its worst. And we have Microsoft, which has thrown in the towel basically at this point with video games and just kind of gave up on trying to make quality, you know, exclusive games for their console. They've been an outlier in all this mess that we've called 2024 so far, and that's been Nintendo. Nintendo has had their years of controversies. I'm not going to pretend that Nintendo's some golden saint. They have done a lot of stupid stuff over the years. They have gone after small creators. They have made advertising their games on YouTube next to impossible. They've had dumb corporate decisions. They've gone after fan games that were not hurting them in any way. But this year has been pretty decent for them. If I would say even good. They've released a lot of good games. They've released a lot of good remakes, new ideas. They've looked like they've done pretty good. They even took a year off of making Pokemon, which, you know, we haven't seen that since, what, in between Gen 6 and 7? They had that off year. So, like, it seemed like Nintendo was making a lot of really, really good decisions. Until recently. We all know Pocketpair, the parent company that made Palworld. We've known since Palworld released back in January of this year that Nintendo was going to go after them for something. We figured it would have been the copyright claim because a lot of the Pals do look like Pokemon. I'm not going to pretend that they don't. Look at Anubis and Lucario. Anubis the Pal looks like Lucario the Pokemon. There's no denying that. So we thought they were going to go after them for copyright claims. Maybe they ripped Pokemon models or they took assets or something. But no, that's not what Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are doing at all. On September 19th of this year, Nintendo released stating that the Pokemon Company and Nintendo have filed a class action lawsuit against Pocketpair in the Tokyo District Courts for patent infringement rights, multiple patent infringement rights. And this came out of, like, nowhere now. Like, we did not expect them to be going after patent laws of all things. And I have the patent laws right here. They claim, as of one, a non-transitionary computer-relatable storage medium has stored therein a game program causing a computer of an excess. Excuse me, let me read that. Sorry, this is really like cold-wordy and I'm having trouble reading it. Anyways, a non-transitionary computer-related storage medium having stored therein a game program causing a computer of information processing apparatus to provide execution comprising. I have no clue what that means. I'm not even going to pretend that I know. I'm not a lawyer, so. Controlling a player character in a virtual space on a flat operational input in association with selecting based on a selection operation, a bolding object that the player character can bold and provide a bolding instruction, causing the player character to bold the bolding object and bringing the player character into a state where the player character can move within the bolding object is selected among a parity of type of object that the player character owns. So basically, you hop on a creature and you can ride it around the world. That's what I'm getting at. Like, you could in Legends Arceus, you could, ride Pokemon to get across the world. You can ride Pales to get across the world, flying in the sky and on the ground. In association with providing a second operational input where the player character is in the air, causing the player character to bold an air bolding object and bringing the player character into a state where the player character can move into the air, and while the player character is aboard the air bolding object, moving the player character aboard an air bolding object in the air based on a third operational input. So basically, you can control something flying around, you jump, you pull out like a glider of some kind, you can move around. So they're trying to patent this gameplay mechanic that a lot of other games nowadays use. Like, you're basically saying if you move around in a 3D space and you can ride a mount of some virtual creature, Nintendo's trying to claim that as their own idea that no one else can use, basically. I do not like that. I really do not like the fact that they're trying to patent riding a mount in a 3D space. Think of how many games that's been released in the last couple years. You're riding some kind of mount in a 3D space. Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring are just a few I can think of that you move around in a 3D space. In Horizon's case, you jump on a hang glider, you can move around while controlling something in the air. You can fly a mount with that. I'm pretty sure in Elden Ring, you can ride, you have a horse, you have a mount being controlled in a 3D space. I do not like that. That spells bad for the gaming community, because think about it, if they win this patent on this, and there's another one I'm going to be reading, but if this alone they win a patent for, think of what that's going to do for like indie developers that want to, create a 3D game where you use a glider, or you control something in the air, or you mount an animal to ride around. Like, are they going to go after every game like that now? So they're the only game in town that you are only playing Nintendo games and Nintendo games only. The other one that they filed was, let's see, based on a received directional input determining an aiming direction in a virtual space, and in first mode, causing the player character to launch in the aiming direction, a catching item for catching the field character disposed on a field in the virtual space. So basically, you take a Pokeball-like item, you throw it at a creature, it captures it, you can then send it out. Based on an operational input, and when the catching item launches, hits the field character, performing successful catch determination relating to whether or not the catching is successful, and when the result of the successful catch determines its positive, setting the field character hit by the catching item into the player's possession. So you throw said object, you capture something in a 3D space. And second mode, causing the player character to launch the aiming direction, a fighting character, and causing the field character and the fighting character to stop fighting against each other on the field. So basically, in a nutshell, they're trying to patent taking a spherical object and throwing it in a 3D space. So if I record myself throwing a ball at a dog, or throwing a spherical object at my cat and causing a reaction in a 3D space, are they going to come after someone like me? Oh, if I create a video game where, you know, you take a fishing net and you capture a fish with it, that's capturing, that's launching an item into a 3D space, capturing that fish and causing an outcome based on that input. Are they going to come and shut down a game like that because, well, that's basically what this patent is trying to, you know, say Pocketpair infringed on? I, as a gamer, do not like this. They're trying to make these patents so broad that it covers literally all of their bases. And this, in my opinion, threatens video games as a medium as a whole, because just reading both of that, think of how many games utilize all of those gameplay mechanics to some degree. And Nintendo's trying to claim that they are the only ones that can use it. They own that idea. You don't own that idea. That has been being done since the creation of video games. Directional inputs in a virtual space. Throwing something or launching something to cause an effect in a virtual space. That's video games as a whole. I don't understand how this even got past a patent office. And like, I know I'm probably not explaining it as good as some other YouTubers. I'll link a couple videos I've watched down below that goes really in depth into this and explains it. But in my opinion, Nintendo, you need to pull your heads out of your fucking asses. This is not good for us as gamers. It's just not. Because if they win this, think of what Nintendo can go after people for. They'll go after people for anything if they win this. Not that they don't already do. And the only reason they even filed these patents is because they know that Pokemon games is just fucking shit. They know the Pokemon games have been criticized the last couple generations because they're just garbage. They're low effort garbage, and Palworld actually, while buggy because it's still technically in early access, is a better playing experience than the recent Pokemon games that have been buggy fucking messes. We all know this. They are terrified that someone's trying to encroach into the monster catching genre and it's making them look bad. So now them and Pokemon are shitting their pants because they know that, oh no, our games look bad now. We can't have that. Instead of coming down to the root cause and listening to fans of why are we making criticism on Pokemon games? Why are we so critical on newer games? Why don't we like the newer games? Why are people constantly ranting and making videos and posts about the new Pokemon games? Instead of, picking a solution like that and actually making your games better, you're just gonna strike down any company that gives any kind of competition whatsoever. And then a good example of this is Warner Bros. They had a game. What was it? It was a Lord of the Rings game that had a system called the Nemesis system. And what the Nemesis system is if you do something to a character in a game, they remember that for the entirety of the game. Let's say you cut a NPC's arm off. They will seek revenge on you for the rest of the game, and they will remember that you cut their arm off. If you die, if they happen to kill you and you respawn because it's a game and you come back, they'll be like, wait, I thought I killed you. How'd this happen? They'll remember all that. Think of how many games would have benefited from a system like that. But because Warner Bros. Patented it, they have the patent rights to it. No other game can utilize something like that, making gaming worse off than it would have been if a game could implement a system. Think of how great a game like Elden Ring would be. How much better it could be if it had a system like the Nemesis system. Any kind of game, the Resident Evil games, anything you can think of, it would only benefit a system. These patents are designed to help big corporations out nowadays and hurt the little guy, and that's not what patents were originally designed for. They were originally designed to protect the little people, to protect people, you know, inventing something so they can claim it as, that is my invention and no one else can steal it. But the problem with it is, if we just start patenting all these, you know, gameplay mechanics, what's gonna happen is, like, let's say Nintendo wins this lawsuit. Are they gonna be the only ones that can do creature catching games in a 3D space throwing objects? Is, like, Sony next going to patent the open world genre because, you know, they revolutionized it? Are they going to patent first person 80-hour, well, first person, third person 80-hour, you know, story-based heavy games with mocap? It's only going to patent those rights and saying they are the only ones that can do that. Is Microsoft going to patent, you know, like the racing genre as an example, or, you know, something to that effect? This is a slippery slope for video games. I do not like this. A lot of the community does not like this. And I hope Nintendo loses. I hope they crash and burn hard so they can take a long, hard look at what they need to improve instead of just shooting the little guy down so they can stay top dog. Nintendo, I know you're not going to see this. You really don't care about your fans or care to watch criticism. Really step back and think of the implications of what this is going to cause the fan base to think of your company if you go ahead and do this and win. I've been UmbreonMoonlight. I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you're all playing some amazing games out there. And I will see you all in the next video. Have a good day, everyone.